Now that we learned the basic of scripting, it's time to put that knowledge into practice. In this tutorial, we will create a script that moves the camera around with user input. Open the Unity Hub and create a new 3D project. Name it Scripting Exercise. Inside the Unity editor, create a cube in the scene. Make sure that the cube position and rotation are set to 0 and the scale is set to 1. You could do that by selecting the Reset option from the Transform 3-dot settings. Select the camera object and ensure the Y position of the main camera object is set to 1 and the Z position is set to -10. In the Unity editor, navigate to the project window. Create a new folder. Name the new folder Scripts. Create a new C# script inside the script folder and name it Spawn Move. Attach the script to the main camera game object. Ensure that the script is attached to the game object. Double-click the script to open it in Visual Studio. Let's create a private float variable to control the speed of the camera. Let's set the speed to 5. Private float speed equal 5.0 f for the float and semicolon. Let's create a new private method of type void because we don't want it to return anything. Let's call the method moveCamera. Private void moveCamera, open and closing parentheses, and then the opening and closing curly brackets to define the body of the method. Let's add variables that keeps track of the user keyboard input. We want to keep track of the keyboard's top, bottom, left, and right arrow keys. Unity automatically keeps track of a number of inputs by default. We can see those by going to the Unity editor, Edit, Project Settings, Input Manager. If we expand the axis, we can see the horizontal axis keeps track of the left and right navigation buttons. The vertical axis keeps track of the up and down navigation buttons. We can use these details in our code. Let's add code in the move camera methods to keep track of the horizontal input using the left and right keyboard key. Float move horizontal equal input dot get axis open parentheses and between two quotation marks we add horizontal with capital H and then close the parentheses and semicolon. And these will transfer from what we saw in the Unity editor options. Let's add another variable that keeps track of the user's up and down buttons. Float move vertical equal input dot get axis open parentheses and between two quotation marks vertical with capital V and semicolon. We can use these two variables to move the camera object. However, we need these movements in the form of vector3 type of variable. Vector3 is a variable that stores 3 values, usually in the form of x, y, and z positions. We can consider the horizontal movement as the x value and the vertical as the z value in the vector3 variable. And we can keep the y value to 0 because we are not interested in changing the position of y-axis at this instance. Vector3 movement equal new vector3 open parentheses move horizontal then comma or 0 f comma and move vertical and semicolon. In Unity, transform is an object that contains the values of the position, rotation, and scale of an object. Transform.translate open parentheses movement multiplied by speed multiplied by time dot delta time close the parentheses and semicolon. When using a transform that starts with a small letter, the T, it means it is the transform of the game object that the script is attached to. And we attach the script to the main camera game object in the Unity editor. In other words, we are accessing the transform of the main camera game object. We use the translate to move the transform. The translate can take a vector3 value as parameter. We pass the vector3 movement variable and multiply it by the speed and delta time. The speed variable controls how fast the camera object will move. The delta time is the time interval in seconds between the last frame and the current frame. We use it to get smooth movement. If the game was slow, then the delta time is high. If the game is fast, then the delta time or the time between the frames is short. Multiplying our movement by the delta time will ensure the same pace or speed no matter the variation in the time between frames. Let's call the move camera method from the update method so that the script check for the user input every frame. Save the script by pressing Ctrl and S or Command and S if you're on Mac and go back to the Unity editor. Click the play button. Use the keyboard arrow keys to move up, down, left, and right to observe the camera movement. I hope this exercise helps to illustrate the power of coding in Unity. With a few lines of code, we managed to implement basic camera movement in our game or app. Well done, keep on practicing and see you in the next lesson.